Welcome to MEM13015, working safely and effectively in manufacturing engineering. This lecture is a supplement to your student workbook and other resources made available to you. Make sure you have available your participants' workbook, as this will be invaluable for completing the online quiz and the practical assessments. Make sure you check Moodle regularly for the latest updates and resources for your unit and for your course. Once you have logged into Moodle, simply click on the unit and the resource, and it'll take you to another folder, or you'll be able to download or view the resources. The Moodle app is available for your favorite mobile device. There will be regular revision activities using the Kahoots platform. Make sure you download the app. You'll get instructions during your lecture. Pause the video now or take a screenshot to record the download location. During your course, you'll be creating and editing documents. If you don't have access to Microsoft Office, LibreOffice is a good option. It's a free download and it has all the functionality that Microsoft Office does, obviously without a cost, available for Windows, Macintosh, and Apple and Linux operating systems. A lot of the documents referenced in these lectures are available on Connect, work instructions, safety data sheets, etc. All the parts used in these units are referenced from the Pertec website or from the Pertec catalogues, www.pertec.com.au. Every lecture, we will be recommending readings and references. A valuable companion to this course is the Fitting and Machining Trade textbook. It is easier to remember where information is than to remember all the information. Good reference material and knowledge is critical to getting the job done. The Fitting and Machining Trade textbook can be purchased from Hare and Forbes or from your favorite online book retailer. Hare and Forbes' online website is www.machineryhouse.com.au. Pause the video or take a snapshot to record those details. It is important because there's time, planning, money and reputation to getting your jobs done. It is important because there's time, money and reputation at stake. Let's simplify the whole process. Let's apply our safe and effective work strategy. Expect to see this strategy in every single unit that we are studying throughout this course. Think, plan, do, review. What does that mean? There's 4 steps. Think, plan, do, review. What is our first step? Think. What am I doing? Before I do anything, visualize and start to assemble what we are hoping to achieve in our head. For example, I have a flat tire. I need to change the tire on my car. Once we've thought about what we're going to do, start planning what we're going to do. What tools do I need? What equipment do I need? Do I need any help? In what order will I be performing these activities? Do I have a spare tire? Do I have a wheel brace to remove the wheel nuts? Do I have a jack? In what order do I perform this tire changing activity? Do I jack the car up first and then loosen the nuts? Or do I loosen the nuts before I jack up the car? So we need to actually plan our job. Think, plan. Now we're up to do, executing my plan. While I'm changing the tire, is the car a little bit unstable on top of the jack? Is there anything I can do that I haven't planned to make the situation safe? What is my contingency? Should I go and find a brick or a rock and chock the wheel? The last step is to review. Was I successful? Can I do something a little bit differently next time? Like maybe put the wheel chocking as a standard operation rather than an afterthought while I was doing the tire changing. So we think, plan, do, and then review. Let's review what we've just done. Think, what am I doing? Plan, what tools do I need? In what order do I have to do my operations? Are there any other issues that I need to address before I commence my work? Permits, for example. Do, follow my plan, work safely, execute contingencies if my plan is not going to plan. And review, was I successful in my task? Could I do something a bit better next time? In today's lecture, we're going to review the topics in your participants' workbook. Safe and effective work strategy, planning, common workplace documents, emergency plans, working with quality systems, and workplace health and safety. Let's have a look at safe and effective work strategy. Determine job requirements. In other words, what are we doing? Sometimes the terms jobs and tasks will pop up during units or risk assessments, so forth. Just remember, jobs can be best understood as a series of tasks. So there was a series of tasks involved in changing the tire on your car, which was the job. The job is changing the tire. The tasks are all the individual activities that make up the tire changing job. For example, one of the tasks is to jack up the car. Another task is to remove the hubcap. Another task is to chock the wheel. We now know what the difference between a task and a job. So let's have a look at determining the job requirements. What job are we doing during the think step? Are we changing a tire? Are we replacing a hydraulic hose on a backhoe? Do I have the knowledge, skills, and attitude to complete the job? Am I going to have to get some help? Are there any items of information that I need to collect or research before I commence the job? We've already discussed having access to good reference materials and textbooks. Here is an example of some knowledge. It's the learning manual, the Pertec Way 10-step hose procedure. And again, this is available from Moodle. You have thought about the job. Now we need to plan the job. What am I going to do and in what order? For simple tasks, this could be a simple flowchart in your head, or a more complicated task, a flowchart on a piece of paper or a whiteboard. Hang on a minute. Is this an operation that's done many times by many people? Does the organization have a standard way of doing things? Is there a work instruction? Is there a standard operating procedure? We'll be having a look at these a little bit later on in this unit. We've talked about standard operating procedures or work instructions. One of the standard work instructions for Pertec employees or technicians is the Take 5 checklist. This is part of your planning cycle. Contingency plans. Do I have a plan B and C? What if I don't have a particular size hose? What if there's no power on site? Depending on the results of my Take 5, I might have to create a risk assessment. Are there any chemicals involved? Do I have to reference the safety data sheet for PPE requirements? Here's an example of a Pertec Safe Work Method Statement Risk Assessment template. We will be creating risk assessments and safe work method statements in a later unit. Risk assessment templates can be downloaded from pConnect and from pMoodle. In relation to planning, are there any other documents that we need to take into account? Job sheets, incident reports. We've thought about it, we've planned it, now let's do it. Does my organisation have a standard operating procedure or a standard way of doing things? Keep in mind, a standard operating procedure can sometimes be referred to as a work instruction. In our case, our standard operating procedures, in brackets work instructions, can be downloaded from pConnect, and they're also available from pMoodle if you're a student. Here's an example of a work instruction, the stamped analysis. You should all be familiar with the process of determining the replacement hose specifications. Here's another example of a work instruction for measuring and cutting hoses. Here's another work instruction, locking out and tagging out equipment. Make sure you check out pConnect to see what work instructions you may find invaluable for your day-to-day activities. We have thought about it, we have planned it, we've done it. Is there anything I could have done better? Are there any job sheets or service reports I need to complete? Is there an incident report? Did something go wrong? Or was there an unforeseen situation that I need to let everybody know about? Let's take a closer look at reviewing. Reviewing could be just completing a job sheet, or in this next example, I've been put in charge of running a franchise and I need to review and identify potential risks and hazards that might affect the business. The SWOT analysis, this is actually one of your assessment activities, so we'll spend a few moments on this. The SWOT analysis is one example of how to create a matrix of risks and benefits and look at issues that might affect the delivery of your job or service. You can use a SWOT analysis for basically anything: buying a house, starting a cupcake business, purchasing a hydraulic hose manufacturing franchise. This gives us a snapshot of the strengths and weaknesses, internal and external, that can affect our business or undertaking. Here's an example. Internal strengths, we've got skilled staff and a big product range. What are our weaknesses? We've got a bad location and we have trouble getting staff. What about external opportunities? There's opportunities for new customers and for diversification. What are some external threats? Well, obviously competitors, cheap imports, change in government regulations. The assessment activity that you'll be doing for this unit, you'll be looking at your particular franchise and identifying the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that apply to your particular franchise or location. Next summary, common documents used to promote safety and efficiency in your workplace. One common workplace document is the Safe Work Procedure. This is basically a how to do something document, like use a crimper or use a forklift. It's basically the order in which an operation is performed to minimize or eliminate a risk. This is the second of your assessment activities. You'll be required to create a safe work procedure for a drill press in your workshop. Another common workplace document is the risk assessment. This is basically an analysis of the risks and hazards associated with an activity and the measures taken to minimize or eliminate those risks and hazards. The terminology can get a little bit confusing. Just remember, when it comes to hazards and risks, a hazard is the cause of a problem. For example, a Stanley knife or an extension lead laying on the ground. The risk is the result of the hazard. For example, the risk could be cutting my hand with the Stanley knife or tripping over the extension cord. Here we can see we've identified a potential hazard, which is a Stanley knife. We're skiving a hose with a Stanley knife. We know we can easily slip, cut our hand, and do some damage. By using protective gloves and using a customized skiving tool, we've reduced the consequences from a level 3, which is significant, to a level 1, which is negligible. And regarding the likelihood, we've also reduced the likelihood from a level 3, which is occasional, to a level 1, which will be improbable. The risk assessment is the analysis, and the safe work method statement is the implementation. the method that we're going to use to reduce or eliminate the risk. And of course, as we've already discussed, a work instruction or standard operating procedure. This is basically how an organization wants a certain activity done. Safety data sheets are another common document found in the workplace. Any chemical or substance stored in a workplace must have a safety data sheet. This contains information like type of chemical in the result of a spill, how to dispose, any PPE requirements. Emergency plans. An emergency plan is basically a set of instructions that tells workers in the workplace what to do in the event of an emergency. Emergency plans are not just found in workplaces. We see an emergency evacuation plan in an aeroplane. Emergency procedures are usually located around the workplace as posters and signage. Pertec's emergency response plan can be downloaded and viewed from pConnect. Working with quality systems. A quality management system is a set of policy procedures recognised by industry and the government. We are all familiar with the quality logo. This identifies companies that have implemented a quality system. Organisations are regularly audited and sometimes a prerequisite for doing business in some cases. For example, you need to have a quality system in place to, for example, get government contracts. As with occupational health and safety, usually all the employees are involved in the implementation and the management of the quality management system. Workplace health and safety and risk management. It is important that everybody in the workplace is involved in the safety process. Too often, decisions have been made by persons not familiar to the activities, resulting in frustration and impedance to day-to-day tasks. A term commonly used in OH&S circles is reasonably practicable. Putting seatbelts on trains, for example, would be deemed not reasonably practicable. Everybody should be enabled and empowered to get involved in defining workplace policies, especially if it directly affects them and their day-to-day activities. You don't want people that know nothing about what you do to be making safety decisions for you. Let's look at the risk management process. And again, this is not arbitrary. There are government requirements and guidelines. In this case, there's an Australian standard. Identify the hazard, assess the risk, control the risk, review the risk. Does that look familiar to you? Identifying the hazard. This could be our think, walk around the workshop. What could cause, what could pose a risk? What hazards are there? Remember, hazard is the cause, risk is the result. Let's have a look around here. The longer we look at this picture, the worse it gets. Assess the risks. What are the consequences of these hazards? Is it just a paper cut or a death? Control the risk. Is my solution reasonably practicable? In this case, I think it is. Reviewing the hazards. Did it work? What was the result of my controls? Were they reasonably practicable? Who is responsible for health and safety in the workplace? Legally, it's the PCBU, the persons conducting a business or undertaking, or management. But professionally, ethically, and morally, safety is everybody's responsibility.